This is another Frank Collab.
I was born with cerebral palsy, physical disability which affects the way in which messages travel around my body. But what you guys are seeing and what you're hearing is what you get.
I was speaking at an event and it was like over a day and a half. Some of the people in the audience starting to wane a little bit. Then you come on and then you do your speaking and then you got a standing ovation at the end.
Oh man. And being a speaker is actually probably the best thing that I could do, because every single time something comes up, you're like, it probably isn't just happening to me, it's probably happening to lots of people. I remember being in real awe of my mates who were just skateboarding home and I was in the car driving up to a hospital. I'd look at these cool kids and be like, well, I want to be doing I want to be doing that.
How did you transition from where you were to where you are now?
Ever since I was a kid, my dream wasn't about being an athlete. It wasn't about being a speaker. It was about traveling, entertaining and connecting.
Right from day one is like, okay, if I want something, I'm going to have to work towards it. It might take me a little bit longer, but it doesn't mean it's not going to stop me from doing it.
So there was this bureau and I contacted them. She asked me about who I'm speaking to and what I speak about, and we get to the end of a conversation and she says, kid, I don't think it's going to work for you here in America. In fact, judging by your voice, I don't think it's going to work for you anywhere. Like just dropping to my knees in tears of like, wow, like what a moment in life. Like when you think back to people who said that walking and talking would be your biggest challenges, and now here I am climbing Kilimanjaro. I'll show you that I can, but I won't show you that I can in a way of like you're wrong and I'm right. I'll show you in a way that this is what you expect a speaker to be.
Welcome to Stand Up Again with Sophie and Nick Ratto.
Our guest today was told from an early age that his biggest challenges in life would be walking and talking. He's now an international keynote speaker and has even climbed Kilimanjaro to celebrate.
Yeah, our inspiring guest today is Calkoen. So, Calkoen, thank you so much for coming on to Stand Up Again with Sophie and Nick Ratto. We are so excited to chat to you today. A couple of weeks ago, I was speaking at an event and hosting an event that was a great event, and it was going pretty good, and I thought I was doing pretty well and had them going, and it was like over a day and a half, but could see some of the people in the audience starting to wane a little bit. And then you come on and then you do your speaking, you do your speech. And then I thought, as I said to you before, I thought I'd done pretty well. But then you went and did your thing and then you got a standing ovation at the end.
Man.
Now, I know you as an international speaker and I know you as a real motivational person. But for those that don't know Calkoen, we'd like to start at the beginning as to what, for those that have never seen Calkoen speak before or where you've come from. If you could start from the beginning for us and then we'll go from there.
Thank you so much for that introduction, not just now, but 2 weeks ago when we were doing that event. And for anyone who's listening, you know, I'm going, God, this guy sounds a bit different. I was born with cerebral palsy. So physical disability which affects the way in which messages travel around my body. But what you guys are seeing and what you're hearing is what you get. I live in a normal house. I drive a cool car. I've been an ambassador for Toyota in the past. I've done all this cool stuff through growing up in an environment where mum and dad really just said, well, what was our dream as parents?
Right.
You know, and let's not change what that dream looks like and focus on what can do. Right. So whether it was having a gnarly treehouse as a kid or coming home and saying, I want to play soccer and going out and getting the uniform or changing schools to be in better, more inspiring environments, mum and dad really created that foundation. Whereas being born with cerebral palsy was not going to be a limitation. It was just going to be who I am.
Yes. And I want to talk to the cerebral palsy aspect of it as well, because you said it's like You kind of briefly touched on it, the explanation of it now. Can you go into a bit more detail as to like what it affects, the troubles and the trials and tribulations of,
Yeah, and when is it diagnosed? Is it as soon as you're born or is it later in development?
Yeah, it's later in development. So it's when you start moving and it's a bit delayed, or there was something like folds in your legs, slightly off, so your gaits are a little bit different. But that's all the kind of technical stuff, right?
Sure.
And even when you just ask me about it, I get goosebumps because I often wonder if no one told me I had cerebral palsy, how would life be?
Yeah.
What would it be like? In fact, I don't wake up and go, Cam, you've got CP, let's get through this day.
Right.
I go up and go, what am I going to go out there and achieve?
Wow.
But it is a physical disability. So I was born in Holland and Amsterdam, and Mum and Dad were going to the hospital and everything was going to plan and as expected, and then labour came and that all went to plan, but during birth Mum had difficulties, and there was a young nurse on at that time and she found it quite hard, but she also didn't want to call for help. Right. So rather than calling someone up and saying, hey, I need a bit of a hand, she did what she could. And then in the months to come, we would discover that moment in which the umbilical cord was tied around my neck, and that short reduction of oxygen would be what would ultimately change my life.
Wow.
With having cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
And so cerebral palsy is, for everyone now, it's what you're seeing, and this is what it is for me. But you could have someone who would walk past you in the street and you wouldn't even notice, right through to someone nonverbal in a wheelchair, living a totally different life. And the difference of oxygen that I didn't get, not to be quoted medically, but like between you guys and me and someone who's much more severe, it's the same amount of time lost. So it's just, it's like fractions of time.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so as your mum were you the firstborn in your family?
Firstborn.
Okay,
yeah.
so mum's dealing with, hey, I'm a new mum, and then I'm learning she maybe didn't have any experience with CP herself.
No,
so she's navigating, okay, so what do I do? And what would the doctors have said to your mum at that point, what to expect?
Prognosis was not great. Like it was Cam's biggest challenges in life are going to be the way he walks, the way he talks, and it was kind of focused on let's just do everything we can to get Cam's life to be as normal as can be. And so every day after school, I'd be going off to the hospital to do physio and speech therapy and anything in therapy.
Yeah.
I feel like I've done it.
Yeah.
But I'd be doing that and I'd be kind of not wondering why do I have to do this, but I remember being in real awe of my mates who were just skateboarding home and I was in the car driving up to a hospital. And so I'd look at these cool kids and be like, well, I want to be doing I want to be doing that. And so I'd start seeing physio as, how can this physio get me onto that skateboard? Okay, the skateboard's going to be a bit of a reach, but let's get a skateboard, screw on a handlebar. This is before all the kids had those cool scooters, and create a scooter. And then when I get to school, be like, hey guys, I can't skate like you skate, so because my balance isn't as good as yours. So I'd give people a compliment, make them feel good. But I've got my scooter, and with my scooter, I can go wherever you go. And with that, as kids and, as parents, like kids are going, cool, this is his dream, this is his goal, this is what he can do, and let's focus on that.
And a lot of people, a lot of kids would have gone, I want what he's got now in terms of
The cool scooter.
the cool scooter.
Yeah,
You should have
yeah.
trademarked it.
I know. Dad should have
Patent.
trademarked it big time. It would be a really different life now. But and I think that's where I started to fall into communication without knowing it. But like, I wanted to play cricket, and so I'd play cricket, and I'd train as hard as I could. So that's where hard work came from. And then I'd walk up to the kid competing against opening batsman, and I'd say, look, I can't bowl the whole pitch, but I can bowl from halfway. Is that cool? Yeah, cool, sweet. And I'd get playing over for day or an award for bowling people out. So primary school was just like awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like you're learning early on really incredible adaptive skills to be, able to still do what it is you want to do, and you're adapting to your surrounds and your environment, like half the pitch. Is that cool?
Yeah.
You're learning early on, probably what takes other children a lot longer to learn that skill.
Well, when I tell that back to you now, I go, gosh, what a mature flipping kid I was. But I guess when you've got that option to, look at your sign or stand up, that's in your control. And it's also, I meet kids today who are getting bullied and stuff like that, and I know that it's a real different time, but I also with a degree of how do you interpret language and how do you perceive yourself. And my great mate at primary school, I remember we'd be in the cloak bay of school, and he'd be like, oh, disabled kids aren't allowed in here. And we just have a laugh and chuckle, and I'd be like, oh, you egg. And we'd go on and have a good day, and I still consider him my best mate. And I think things like that just, and he in no way meant that in any other way than that was his degree of humour. We were mates, but it takes a way of understanding that sort of, that could be funny. And how am I going to interpret that in order to not go home and go, oh, I had a really shit day because someone picked on me and, but this is how I viewed it.
Exactly. And it's calling the elephant in the room sometimes breaks the tension, breaks the ice.
Yeah.
As a speaker, we'll go into a little bit later as well. That's how important that is.
Yeah.
Well, you see, I do that straight away with my audience, right? Because and even today, it's pretty much straight away. Because until you break the ice, that's the focus. Or until you identify the pink elephant. Once you've done that, we can focus on what everyone's here today do. And if that's at school, that's having fun. If that's as an athlete, it's been an athlete. If it's as a speaker, it's like, how is this hour going to give me a return on our time?
Exactly. I want to briefly touch on something you mentioned before, because I'm really fascinated about this, about your parents, because I feel like you get so much positivity, so much out of the box thinking from them, and this sort of can do, will do attitude, and the control what you can control attitude from them. I want to go back to that moment where you described in the hospital where the nurse could do what she could do, but unfortunately she didn't ask for help at that time. Can you, have they talked about, when they said, oh, we want to give, our goal as being parents, let's live that to the fullest that we can. But was there a time where there was potential like blame or why them or, kind of that kind of situation? Or was it instantly like, let's click into it? Can we talk to that?
Definitely not what I know of. And hey, look, mum and dad, mate, I don't feel comfortable saying that because I just don't think that was
for sure.
That it was this is our son, this is Cam, and this is life. And so I was born in Holland and Amsterdam because my grandparents Dutch Jewish, and they'd moved here after the war, and then my dad was born here, and he went back to Holland to Visagie because that's where they met people, and that's where he met my mum, who's not from Holland either. She's from Glasgow in Scotland.
Oh, wow.
But she was a nurse and working in, not a nurse, she'd work in laboratories, a lab technician.
Oh, yes.
And that's where mum and dad met. and then decided to come back to New Zealand where the grass was greener and not the grass that I was used to in Amsterdam. And again, that's no reason why I've got cerebral palsy either, just in case people were wondering. And just brought us up in Hawke's Bay in Napier. And
lovely.
But what I got from Mum and Dad, and I often remember Mum, talking about when she was 18 and sitting in front of her boss at work, and there was a picture of Madrid or Morocco behind her boss. And she said, "Where's that?" And he explained. And he said, "Look, the greatest way to gain perspective in this world is to travel." And so Mum travelled as much as she could, and I think that perspective is what enabled her to
see a bigger picture. Yeah.
And I know that was really important when we were in Napier. We got to a certain level. My dad's dog trainer had trained every dog in Hawke's Bay. There wasn't a great deal of options for school for me and my sister to go to, and so Mum and Dad decided to move up to Auckland. They packed up a family home and they bought a house in Auckland for 5 times the price. But that was what Mum and Dad were prepared to do because, and when we were moving to Auckland, they'd mention it to people in Hawke's Bay and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you're moving to Auckland. It's just too big and overwhelming, and how are you, the traffic and all of that stuff." And these are people that thought it was a long way to drive from Napier to Hastings, and I guess that was a 10, 15-minute drive.
Yes.
And so for Mum and Dad, it was all about, let's just give our kids environments where they get perspective, where they're surrounded by adversity and diversity and ultimately opportunities.
You had friends at what age were you at that stage? Because did you had you already
primary school, so pretty hard in terms of these are your mates you've had since you were in the kindergarten, and I think that was a big part of my positivity as a kid, because these are kids who had just known me since we were peeing in the sandpit together. So Cam was just Cam. There was no who's this new guy? But
was that hard because our son is that age at the minute, and we're not thinking the same thing, but in terms of moving. Or anything.
Do we move or do we not move?
But he's got this good bunch of friends, and it's hard for kids. And one of the biggest things is starting a college or starting a new school and not knowing anyone. Was that when they said to you, "We're going to go"? Did you want to go?
Yeah,
you did. Why?
Yeah. Because it was exciting, man. So before moving here, we'd be coming up to Auckland and school holidays. You had St. Luke's. Whoa! You got shopping. This is in 1996. So shopping malls, places with escalators,
rainbows,
a ferry to get from one side of the city to the other side of the city.
I could see that be really exciting, actually.
Fast cars, big, it was exciting. And thinking about your kids. And just movement's kind of part of life, and if being a kid is about learning as much as you possibly can, well, learning how to stand up again, whatever that looks like, is one of those big skills, because otherwise we get really comfortable with first, and this is all I've ever known, and so can I dream bigger? Because if dreaming bigger means stepping away from everything I've known, well, that's scary. But if you go, actually, I did that as a 8-year-old, and again as a 12-year-old, and again when I went to university. Now I've learned all this stuff that the classroom was never going to teach me.
Yeah, I feel like it's controlled exposure to moments of resilience and challenge. A bit of adversity here and there can help build a very strong, healthy, mature adult, isn't it? I want to touch back on mindset, because from what I'm hearing from day one, actually, it sounds like your mindset is this incredibly optimistic, amazing inner mindset, what do we call it? Like a inner mind.
Mantra or no?
No, it's like your
like
inner
a-
landscape of your mind seems so optimistic. Have you ever felt victim mentality, or do you feel like this is just who Cam is? This is who you are?
I feel that's my default.
It's your default
And
setting.
so, because there was a time like when I'm going from intermediate to high school, where that took a bit of a toll. But it was also having that dream was just a cool way of creating unity for people, because you're talking about who you want to be and what you want to do. And when you talk about that and who you want to be, what you want to do, you can get through tough situations. So, and like as a kid, school assemblies here in New Zealand is sit on that wooden floor for what felt like hours, right? How are you going to get through this? I mean, you're skinny, bony kid, so your bum is hurting. So I'd imagine being like a fighter pilot and flying around, and at no point would I ever go, but Cam, you've got cerebral palsy. There's no way in which you can't do that. Now, I didn't go on to be a fighter pilot, but I went on to use that dream and positivity to get through either challenging moments or to build life. And so even we did another transition, so we moved to Ponsonby. Intermediate was cool, and again, I think a reflection of the environment in which you're in. So I had a 29-year-old principal, a guy called Ian Taylor, hugely optimistic, positive guy, took a school that was near closure to fewer than 100 students to like Ponsonby Intermediate, which is such a well-known school now, but he had a saying of, talk with me when you're sad, but don't forget to talk with me when you're happy.
Yeah.
And that rippled down to the whole school. And when there was rubbish left out after morning tea or lunch, a bell would ring. It wouldn't matter what class we were in, a bell would ring and we'd go out and we'd pick up our rubbish, because he also said if you look after your environment will look after you.
Wow.
And I think what we were learning is that your environment isn't just this. Your environment is your people.
Yes.
So again, intermediate was like awesome.
Isn't that so fascinating? I so many things I want to talk about there, because often when people say, "I set out to do this dream of a fighter pilot or whatever," and that positivity, yes, gets you through those difficult situations. But sometimes that people, when they don't become the fighter pilot, then they think that they are less than or that they failed. But really, that's such a great way to look at it. That dream, although I'm not that at the moment, got me through those difficult times of sitting on the hard floor and doing the hard thing. Yeah. And that, I think people have to remember that. I'm saying this out loud to myself. And the other thing as well is that challenge, that transition of like, I wanted to go, this was an adventure, but that default switch was potentially, wavering on being something else when you went into that intermediate, because it was a hard transition for you. Yep. But then all of those learnings that you took from that, you would never have had that. You would never have had that if you didn't move.
Yeah. What was your principal's name?
Ian Taylor.
Okay, Ian Taylor.
And check him out. In terms of looking at an environment that you'd think would be pretty black and white at school. You've got principals, you've got boards, you've got state funding, you've got bulk funding, whatever. He's now the principal at Manuela Intermediate, which is just, you go into that school now, Manuela, not the fanciest suburb at all. No. It's like you're stepping into a private school.
Wow. Really?
And in fact, they're the first state intermediate school to have an off-site campus for these kids to go to.
Wow.
And so this is a man who's just working with the system that he's got to create these environments that take people... They give people permission to dream.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what background you've got. You can dream. And what a cool thing to have in education, right?
So mum and dad and Ian Taylor,
Yeah.
they were inspirational people for you.
People here in New Zealand,
Yeah.
right? What is the most
Lucky.
important thing in our world? People, and if we can just remind ourselves of that.
Yeah.
And so mum and dad, it wasn't about let's send Cam to the school that's easy or logical. Let's go and meet with the principal, find out what they're into, you know, what makes them tick.
Yeah.
If the principal's too busy to meet with us, well, maybe
He's not the
maybe
one.
that's a sign, right?
Yeah.
Because there was one school where I did go for a year and it was crap.
Really?
Like, so we went
How old
from
were you there?
this is transition of intermediate to high school, first year of high school.
Right.
So went into this high school having had the best start to education, like,
Yes.
and stepping in and getting off that school bus and walking through that school gate and just seeing everyone who seems so much bigger than me.
Yeah.
It's hard to know who's a teacher, who's a student.
Yeah.
Walking into that school assembly where everyone's been called out which class they're going into. And for the first time in my life, I noticed two groups of students. People with special needs at the front of the hall and everyone else. And I'd never been at a school that had a special needs unit before.
Right.
And I wasn't a part of that special needs unit.
Yeah.
But because I'm a hybrid, right? Like,
yeah.
it's not 100%. I'm not in a wheelchair. I'm not got missing limbs. It's like,
Yeah.
who is he? He walks and talks different, but he kind of looks like us, you know? So
Yeah.
but no one really knew what to expect.
Yeah.
And well, one person that I didn't really like at my intermediate school because he was just that kid that was
Yep.
annoying was the only other kid at my new high school, and we'd jump on the school bus that came from Ponsonby to where the bus was going.
Yeah.
So everyone automatically assumed that we must have been mates. And so you just have this like ingredients for like,
Yeah.
plus you're a teenager, being a teenager is pretty gnarly at the best of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
And you're feeling different. You haven't got the mates that you used to have. You're just like, yeah, and you're like, man, was I just lucky up until this point?
Right. And so when you get to that, like, because that must have been, because I remember feeling like that in terms of that sinking feeling where you don't actually want to turn up to the place, like, because you don't. You think to yourself, yeah, was it luck, or, you know, is this my lot now? Have I run out of luck? There's so many different thinkings and things that are going on. So what did you do in that time, or what did your parents do? Did they sense something in you that had changed?
Yeah, the biggest change was like, I remember we had that Form 4, whatever year that is these days, Form 3, third form,
Yeah.
school
I
camp.
think it's year 9, I think it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that
that's
age 14?
13,
Yeah,
14,
13,
13.
14.
Yeah.
So straight out of intermediate, and
Yeah.
I'd come home and said, I don't want to go on school camp.
Mm.
And I'd never said that before. Like, I'd go on camps on holidays because I just loved that.
Yeah.
And at that point, Mum and Dad said, look, maybe this is real bad. And it
Right.
wasn't just that. Like, I was doing stuff like, I look back now and go, why did I even have those thoughts in my mind? Why would I? You know, like, it wasn't cool what was happening. And we were, Mum and Dad told me to counselling but it was about I don't want to go to camp. And Mum and Dad remembered Mr. Taylor saying, look, there's one school that I'd recommend you go to, which is Rangitoto College on the North Shore.
Oh, yes.
But at that time, we were living in the city, and Rangitoto was a zone school. It was too
Yeah.
hard to get to.
Yeah.
And Mum and Dad one day came home and said, we're taking you out of the school you're in now, and we're going to send you to the best school in New Zealand. And I said, I'm going to King's College because that's who my mate from Ponsonby has gone to. So I was like, wow, like what's happening there? And they showed me the prospect for Rangitoto College, and I was like, oh, that's different. And then they were like, but we've got to move from the city to, and while we move, we've actually spoken to your old school principal, Mr. Taylor, who's living up in Singapore, and he's invited you to come to Singapore for this week while we transition to the school. Oh. And so 12, 13, whatever it was, I'm on my plane doing my first international flight.
By yourself?
By myself, being picked up in Singapore by this guy that I just thought, even though he was my school principal, I thought he was so cool. And they just took me to all these places for this whole week. We came back, was in a new house on the North Shore, and my principal, going back to people, was a guy called Alan Peachy. And I walked into his office and he said, Cam, what can you do for my school? Ooh. And he was a big, tall man. And that was quite a big question.
It's a huge question.
Huge question, right?
Yeah.
And you're starting to think, what do you mean, dude? This is your school.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for me?
Yeah.
And I guess that question just lay in my mind. And so when I was in my form class and that piece of paper was circling to do the school athletics day, his voice came back into my head of, what can you do for my school? And maybe what I could do was about embracing every single opportunity that came my way. And so my best mate at school, Terenzo Bizzoni, the Ironman, he also said, look, just put your name down for the shortest event for 100 meters and I'll be your first coach. And he came running to our house and he picked me up and he's a big Greek god even when we were at high school and we're running up this hill and he's asking me about my weekend and I'm just puffing away. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to stick to 200 meters max.
Yeah.
And then high school returned back to what primary and intermediate school had been. And I had my dream again. I had my goal again. I wasn't Cam, that disabled kid. I was Cam, the athlete. Yeah. Cam, the guy that made us laugh. Cam, the guy that had parties, the North Shore parties. were a thing. We had those North Shore parties, which were epic. And and I've kind of got back on track. And then just driving here now, I was thinking, what a life that's been. Like as a 18, 19-year-old, been introduced to a group on the North Shore called the North Harbour Club, which was all about supporting young, aspiring talent. And for me, then it was being an athlete and then getting scholarships to university. And I just want to go through this because it's goosebump stuff and we've got limited time, but like university, scholarship, and then getting a job as a fundraiser and being able to raise $4 million to build a centre and then becoming a speaker because someone said, hey, you know what you said on Monday when we were doing that fundraising campaign, can you come and speak to my organisation about it? And like there's all this stuff, like Nick and Sophie were just like, that's the positivity.
Yeah.
Like we were saying before, there was time living in a cool place in Takapuna, going to Queenstown, waking up in Amsterdam, New York, Singapore, Fiji, to speak to people as they're living. It's like, man. So we can fill in wherever you guys want to fill in now.
Yeah, there's so many.
So then you go, I'm going to make a career out of this. Yeah. Did you just launch straight in? I'm going to speak, or how did you transition from, where you were to where you are now? How do you get from that? Yeah,
because was it the university experience that made you want to speak? Because let's go back to the original thing of like when they said that you had cerebral palsy, one of the hardest things was to speak and to walk were the two hardest
I know,
things.
crazy, right?
But then was that then like, I'm going to show you?
No.
No, it was just...
And I say no so quickly because I've been asked that a few times.
Yes.
Like, is this kind of a stuff you? I'm going to prove to you
Because it
that
can
I
do that.
can do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
What it is that ever since I was a kid, I wanted to travel, I wanted to entertain, and I wanted to connect. That was my dream. My dream wasn't about being an athlete. It wasn't about being a speaker. It was about traveling, entertaining, and connecting. And so whenever opportunities came up that would get me to do 1, 2, if not all 3 of those things, I'd say yes. So at school with Torinjo saying, put your name down for the school athletics day, I realised that and doing it in the school saying, go Cam, go Cam, go Cam, even though I lost that race by a long way, I knew that sport was entertaining. I knew that if I got really good, I could travel. And in a way, I'd be connecting with people, whether that's my training peers or anyone else. And I also would come home from a school athletics day and be like, Cam, you're an athlete now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about my goal is to be an athlete. I was an athlete now. And so my mentality of, well, if I want to be that athlete, I'll fake it till you make it. What do I need? What does that look like? So it's, looking after, it's eating it, and you learn all that stuff. And you tell yourself that.
Yeah.
And then a speaking opportunity came up because I'd achieved some pretty cool stuff. And people said, can you come and speak about it?
Right.
And again, I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
I can't even understand myself sometimes. Right?
Let alone a microphone, which is intimidating for everyone.
So why then, because when you do that, can you come and speak at something?
Yeah.
I guess that kind of leans into the connection aspect of it.
An entertainer?
Yeah,
And
so my
entertainment.
first speech, I was at a school, and I was at school myself, and my nose exploded in front of a girls' school, Westlake Girls' School.
Sneezing.
Sneezing.
Snot.
I had a cold. So before that, my manager had said, Cam, if you put the same effort into your speaking that you do your running, you'll have a lot less to worry about.
Right.
So I'd be not just going into a speech like I've got 10 minutes to give a speech. I'd be Kevin Harding that whole thing of scripting it, imagining it. Who do I want to be? How do I want my audience to feel? I do not want my audience to be uncomfortable for that 10 minutes. So what does that look like? And then I get there, I do the speech, my nose explodes halfway through. The snot, and this isn't a speech, this is a snot. Thank goodness it was way before COVID. Shut down.
Super spreader.
And my manager came up behind me and he didn't have a hanky, he didn't have a tissue. He had his very own shirt for me to blow my nose on. Yeah, cute, eh? Or bless him.
Bless his
Or bless
heart.
you more.
Bless my heart, because I did. I was like, hey, this is an opportunity. I'm going to blow this on your shirt. And I continued for that speech. And I guess in that moment, it was like demonstrating stuff that I could have never planned for. It was resilience. It was not worrying about what people think. It was not letting that distraction get in the way of your flow. And then these students came up to me afterwards and we were like, someone crying, someone laughing, someone saying how inspired they were and that they now believe they had a bit more resilience in the tank. And I'm the same age as these people, and half an hour they had no idea who I was.
Yeah.
Within half an hour, in what would have seemed like an absolute nightmare for a speaker.
Yeah.
And one of those reasons why speaking is the biggest fear, because what if stuff like that happens? Within half an hour, we built this connection, this rapport and friendship simply through communication.
Wow.
Face to face, ear to ear, mouth to mouth, communication.
Nose to shirt.
How cool would it? Nose to shirt. How cool would this be if I could do this as much as I could everywhere I could with anyone but I could? In fact, if I get really good at this, I'm gonna travel the world. I'm gonna entertain. And one of my first books I read as a speaker, in it says, don't give a speech, put on a show. So I'm going to entertain, I'm going to put on that show, and I'm going to connect people. I'm going to connect people with inspiration, with their dreams, and with one another. And that kind of created the chapter that led to us being on this couch now.
Yes. Now, this is fantastic. So then you put your heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
And you as you say, like you put the work ethic in, because that's been another thing that's been like kind of right from day one is like, okay, if I want something, I'm going to have to work towards it. It might take me a little bit longer, but it doesn't mean it's not going to stop me from doing it.
Yeah.
And you do this, and then you get successful in doing this, and you go around and you do your things in New Zealand, but then you want to travel, so you want to do it overseas, and you want to go to America.
Yeah.
Can you talk to the American experience and maybe some of the pitfalls of America, or maybe some of the roadblocks that America held up for you?
Well, first off, like, it wasn't like I sneezed, I did that speech, and boom, like it all came in.
No,
it was going. This would be so cool. At the moment, I'm working for a charity, and what does a charity need? A charity needs exposure. Well, how's a good way to create exposure? Speak. So I'd speak as much as I could for that charity, and I said, I'm going to be here for a year, and then at the end of the year, I'm going to go full-time into my speaking. And so I'd be out there building my network, I guess, and building experiences. And then I went into that full-time year as a speaker, and I thought, I've got to give 100 speeches in my year, because if I'm telling people that I'm a speaker and it's just popping up once every couple of months, mate, that's lucky. But if people were seeing stuff pop up on my socials every other day, wow, Cam's living the dream. And plus, if I'm aiming to do 100 talks in a year, it doesn't really matter what I'm charging, because that's going to cover, it's going to give me more than I was making in my charity. And so I did that, and then I realized that people were paying big bucks to get American and Northern Hemisphere speakers to New Zealand. And I thought, I need to find out what makes them tick. So I got a coach from the Northern Hemisphere, and then I still wasn't getting, like, I was signed up with celebrity speakers, but I wasn't getting all the work that I wanted to be getting.
Yes.
And I was Cam Calkoen, and how cool would it be if Cam Calkoen was a speaker who chose to be a speaker? Like, there's no, he's done this and he's now talking about it. This is someone who really is 100% committed to the craft.
Yeah.
And I remember my grandfather listening to Frank Sinatra, and if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah.
And Rothbury, as part of AMP at the time, had these scholarships for building your dream. And I applied for the AMP scholarship, and I didn't get it. Catherine Wilson got it, which is awesome. For shoes. But I got a thing called a Rothbury Scholarship, which gave me $10,000. And I said, my dream is to take my voice to the world. And so I used that $10,000 to get to New York, and I had an apartment in Hell's Kitchen, and I didn't know anyone else. I had no real plan, but I knew I had this pretty good network back home in New Zealand, and maybe enough people would know some people in New York. And I'd email them all, and I'd email people that didn't know me, and I'd look at the biggest bureaus, and I'd reach out to them in America, and I'd say, hey, I'm a kid from New Zealand, because I kind of was a kid then. And, just started, like, when you've got nothing to lose, right, you've got everything to gain.
Yes. I love that.
And so there was this bureau, and I contacted them, and she said, "Can we have a call?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be cool." So we jumped on the phone, and she's telling me all about these people she represents, and people that were stuck up on my wall as a kid, and people whose books we've read, and she asked me about who I'm speaking to and what I speak about, and we get to the end of a conversation, and she says, "Kid," and she called me a kid, it's okay for me to call myself a kid.
Yeah.
If it's coming from someone else.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to work for you here in America. In fact, judging by your voice, I don't think it's going to work for you anywhere as a speaker. And I guess in that moment, I thought back to my mentors and what's the kind of thing that they'd do, and they'd stay polite. And so I thanked you for your time. And I walked out of Hell's Kitchen and walked into, the big red steps in the middle of Times Square, and I walked up 7th Avenue up until Central Park, and I see hundreds, thousands of people just walking around living their dreams. And I thought to myself, do I stop or do I keep going? And if I really want, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And so I came back to New Zealand with that voice quite heavy in my head of, I don't think it will make it anywhere. But maybe going back a little bit to what you brought up before, I'll show you that I can, but I won't show you that I can in a way of like you're wrong and I'm right. I'll show you in a way that this is what you expect a speaker to be. And so I've got to lift my game, I've got to lift my goals, I've got to be more professional. It's going to be up to me to keep you posted as to what I'm doing. And so I'd ended up doing things like a TEDx talk at the point that TED Talks were like the rage in the world, and I'd just keep hitting on my own events, and I'd be recording it. And eventually that all got back to that bureau in America, and they signed me up, and we went from doing one speech a year to multiple speeches per week throughout the world.
Again, I feel like your mindset is instinctual. I think it's just by design. You said before, like your factory setting.
Yeah.
But do you have to do daily sort of mindset behaviors just to keep you topped up now and again? If you're having a bit of a bad week, what do you do? Do you like journal? Do you do anything extra to help your mindset?
Well, I'm quite routine.
Okay.
And I know that if I drop that routine, when I start to get that sort of funky feeling going in.
What does your routine entail?
So things like going to the gym.
Yeah.
And that's not to become Arnie and not to, I mean, check out your guns, man. I'm always impressed with that. I'm like, this thing must work out, dude. But like for me, it's just, like I was in bed this morning because I just knew I was in here, and life is full noise at the moment. So I've just it's about going, okay, let's just get in there for 20 minutes, and if that 20 becomes 30, we're good. We've got the blood moving around, and I reach out to people. I reach out to my friends, and just give them a call. Like my mate James, he's off overseas today, so give him a call, have a chat. And I think when you do stuff like that, reflection and being a speaker is actually probably the best thing that I could do, because every single time something comes up, you're like, it probably isn't just happening to me, it's probably happening to lots of people. So what would I want to speak about this? How would I want to speak to this?
Yeah.
And then that's how I stay relevant to my audiences, because it's not about this is what I'm living with as cerebral palsy.
No.
This is what I'm living with as someone who's got dreams, goals, and aspirations in a world where there's so many challenges and changes and things happening faster than we've ever seen before, but can knock us off our feet a little bit, and how we choose to get up in those moments. And so things are pretty gnarly at the moment. I've got married, became a dad. Like I had this incredible business set up where I pinch myself and you go, yeah, we're ready, let's go. And then things change and cost of living goes up and you start to realise that, oh, actually, I've got to put my foot back on the gas.
I want to talk Mount Kilimanjaro before we run out of time.
I hope we don't run out of time.
No, keep going, keep
I
going.
hope the guys out the back get all,
Tell me
are getting hungry.
I know, we need to eat at some point.
Yeah.
But tell us about Mount Kilimanjaro. What started that inspiration and how did you go for it?
Yeah, so as a speaker, you have, like I said before, one of the greatest things is being a speaker because it makes you look at stuff and go, well, what's the story that's going to come out from it? What's the opportunity? Why are lots of people not doing the things that they actually really want to be doing? And so I'd met up with Michael Shop in Kingsland, and he's climbed Mount Everest. Like, this guy's a serious climber.
Yeah.
And he was starting to do exhibitions. Exhibitions is that the right word? Or,
I think it is.
Yeah.
No, when people walk around naked.
Expeditions. Not exhibitions. Yeah.
I didn't know what you were saying.
Was it art? There's a few things. Few things really close together. He's up Kilimanjaro, and I reckon you can do it, Cam. Like, man. And I was like, yeah, cool. That sounds good. Walked out of the cafe and thought, I'm gonna stay high for an hour to the end of the day max, but I know that reality's going to pop in and things are going to get busy. So while you're feeling high on this, let's just message everyone and be like, hey, do you want to come up Mount Kilimanjaro? So I sent an email to 20 people within the hour of Mike saying, do you want to come up Kilimanjaro? Saying the same question to these 20 other people. Yeah. And say, remember when we were having those North Shore parties and we used to sing, Kilimanjaro, the song by
Toto Africa.
Yeah, Toto Africa.
Yeah, I know it does.
Imagine if we sang that up Kilimanjaro. Who's in? And 19 people from that 20 came back and said, yeah, let's do it. We flew up to Tanzania. And we, like all individually, because these are people that had inspired me. So people were flying in from London and New York and all over the place. And the next day we started climbing Kilimanjaro, which was 5 days up, 2 days down. She always quicker coming down.
Yeah.
Always quicker.
Yeah.
And I remember,
2 days down.
I remember one day, it would have been maybe day 2, just dropping to my knees in tears of wow, what a moment in life. Like when you think back to people who said that walking and talking would be your biggest challenges, and now here I am climbing Kilimanjaro because I decided to do this goal for the next day. I said yes to speaking. I've got this group of 19 other people with me that just blow my mind with what they've achieved in their lives. We've got no technology. We're here on this mountain. And so on day 3, when my altitude sickness came because on day 3, we're taller than Mount Everest. Not Mount Everest. We're taller than Mount Cook. We're at 12,500 feet. Yeah. And I was walking along and I just remembered I'd stopped talking and I didn't want to drink or eat anything. And then I got dizzy and then I'm feeling sick and I'm vomiting and I'm thinking, oh man, we had a doctor with us and they'd check our blood saturation levels and if it was a certain level it would mean getting off the mountain. And I just remember thinking, I'm never going to be back here with these people. We're not going to have this moment in time. Right. You've just got to hope that you're going to be okay with this blood situation. Fortunately, on that day is a day where you go up a bit and when you come down, and as soon as you start coming down, your altitude sickness lessons, which is crazy because when you see, there's 20 helicopters every day going up onto Kilimanjaro, taking people off. with altitude sickness, and it's the craziest thing because once they pick someone up, they don't fly high, they fly straight down the mountain,
of course they do.
and to bring them down.
Yeah, wow.
And so we then started climbing, and the final bit of the climb kicks in at midnight. And I was like, why are we doing this part at midnight?
Yeah.
They said, well, if you saw what you had to go up, you probably want to do it. But if you also, we want to see the sunrise. And so everyone was leaving at midnight. But the guys came in to our tent, and he said, well, come, you'll leave at 11:15. And I was like, oh, because you're going to find it hard. And I was like, okay. And when we started at 11:15, but man, if anyone just gives me an opportunity to have an advantage over everyone else, I'm going to smack it, right?
Yeah.
And so we started at 11:15, and then at 12 o'clock, I saw everyone else's headlights turn on. And so I could see where all my mates were coming up the mountain.
Yeah.
And my guide saw me moving quite quickly. And he said, do you want to beat everyone up? I was like, yeah, hell yeah. And he said, well, okay, turn off your headlight. Because he said, you'll be able to see where they are, but they can't see where you are. And I got up there, and we got up there at like a 40, so we just maintained that distance
pace,
the whole way up.
Wow.
And that's not about boasting or any of that. It was so cool to have had this stream, to have invited these people on the stream, and then be up there kind of shaking their hands, being like, yeah, man, I've been waiting here for 45 minutes.
Where were you?
And we get up there, and it's like you're in the middle of Africa, but there's a glacier up there. Like this is, you're starting in shorts and t-shirts, and you're finishing in 4 levels in a, North Face puffer jacket and
beanies. Wow.
But it's just an awesome coming together of I think of something that just kind of symbolized it all.
Everything.
And I see in that moment for you, I could just visualize it all happening, but you're leading the way, Cam. You know? You're being a guiding light.
Just providing hope, right?
Yeah,
and
that is it.
I knew that because altitude sickness kicks in at all different times for people.
Yes.
And some of those mates were having it on that night, like 2 o'clock in the morning, -5, vomit. You've got to give them hope that your mates up there, your leaders up there, whoever it is doing it. And we've all not paid for that, but that's what I tell myself.
Exactly.
You are showing such amazing leadership and a beacon of light at the top of Kilimanjaro. Really cool.
Amazing. This show is now going to be a book as well. It's going to be like a handbook of resilience, basically.
You guys are going all out.
All out. So stand up again. So we chatting to loads of cool people like yourself, and we're asking people if they were to put in that book, like a little bit of advice if someone was to give up on their dream or hear that word and go, you know what, the dream is gone. How do we get them back up again just so that they can sort of stand up again and go again? Is there any particular bit of advice that you would put into that book that would help people, do you think?
Yeah. I guess one thing that has been carrying around the idea is this idea of our backpack of belief, and that that we carry around so much stuff with us. And what can we look at but we've already carrying from a different perspective in order to realize what our next opportunity is.
Yeah.
So that, I could have looked in my backpack and gone, I talk funny, so I'm not going to do anything for my speech. Or I could look at it for, this is going to be my accent in life and I'm going to be a speaker. What are those moments that inspire us, that we've got, that we carry? And that every single one of us is writing our own story. And so just because we've been told something doesn't make it right or doesn't make it the only way. It's the beginning of our chapters. And so when those doctors and physios are saying Cam's biggest challenges are going to be the way he walks and talks, maybe for someone else with cerebral palsy, and maybe it's not been easy with me all the time, but it doesn't mean that I haven't been able to create those challenges into my biggest opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, I pinch myself that I'm here with you guys today because I don't underestimate how powerful the dream's been to create this moment. Like, we can think of a dream as something that will never happen, or we can see it as something that gives us clarity and direction.
Yeah.
So holy moly, is that whole book? I just wrote a few pages.
We've just taken a chapter, but I love it. Challenges to opportunities. Incredible. I've loved talking to you today, Cam. Thank you so much for coming in.
Cam Calkoen, you put on a show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Legend.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
So, Cam Calkoen, your thoughts?
I love him.
Yeah.
You had told me he's really inspiring. You've met him a few times at different keynote speaking events.
Yes.
And I had a snippet where I met him a couple of weeks ago, just in the foyer of a hotel when we were crossing paths. And I remember immediately thinking, he's a go-getter and I need some of that energy.
Yeah.
Like really inspired me to like get the laptop out and start doing outreach and get things off the ground. And I loved his ending sort of inspirational moment where he shared challenges to opportunities.
Yes.
So the obstacle is the way, as we often refer
Yes.
to. Yeah.
But it's hard, especially if there's so many moments, and it's a switch. It is a switch, and you can let yourself go there easily. Like, that's the easier option, to take on those words as harm, or take on those words as this is the end, or take on those words as this is always what people perceive me as, so I will just give into it. And it's harder to go no and go again, because I would love to do a scientific research on how much energy it is to do the not easy thing.
Yeah.
To that willpower, as a lot of people call it.
We were talking before as well, before we were talking to Cam today, we were saying sometimes when people say, oh, you can't do that, Sophie, it'll make me want to prove them wrong.
Yes.
But he didn't have that. He had, I'm going to work on and still do the thing so I can get my dream. But it was never out of spite, which was a really healthy way to be. And I really took that on as, I wonder if you do it to prove them wrong. And he said, I don't do it for that.
Because then you're doing it for yourself.
You're doing it for
Because if you're doing it the other way, yes, it is a motivator, and yes, you can do it. But I
think it's far healthier
to do it his way. It's a lot healthier to do it his way. And I think those three elements that he identified super early was really important. So it was traveling, connecting, and entertaining, and everything else falls around that. And if you can do one, or if the greatest thing is three, then that is fulfilling. That's his cup.
One other thing, I'm not saying it as he said it, but it's how I remember it. It was nothing might happen, but everything could.
Yeah.
So why not just send the email or ask? Or I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was very much along the lines, because I had a moment of, that's exactly how I feel about anything good in my life that's happened has come from me thinking, look, it's really scary, but nothing might happen from this, but actually everything might happen after. So why not?
Yeah.
And I think of the moment I decided to message you.
Yeah.
I watched you in a show, and then I decided the next day, I really would like to meet you. And so I messaged you, and I was thinking in that moment, he might not message back.
Yeah.
But he might message back. And it was like that same sort of mentality. Nothing might happen. It could stay exactly the same.
Yeah.
But everything could happen. And look, here we are.
And here we are. Exactly.
So I love that that mantra, that
Yeah.
that life motto. It's
That's
good.
amazing.
He's amazing.
So good. So Cam Calkoen, if you enjoyed that episode, then please let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We've been getting such good feedback from all of our episodes. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, thank you for watching and following along on Instagram as well. We're a baby podcast.
Yes. Started from scratch only a few months ago, and now it's growing.
It's growing each day, and we see that. Yeah.
And we see it, and we do really love hearing people. And even if it's just like, that was really great, or, I love this one, or more of this, please, we love to hear it. So we'll put up our socials, but thank you so much for watching and or listening to Stand Up Again with Sophie and Nick Grado.
Thank you.